All right. Deepest apologies for anybody who's waiting around for our game to start. We're experiencing some technical difficulties. It's late. It's a school night. We're not going to hang too long, but the Celtics did play a game tonight, and we vowed to do a post-game show, and that's what we're going to do, damn it. And the Celtics won. How about that?
Great game.
How about that, Bobby Manning? I don't know if this is a great game. It's an interesting game in a couple different ways, which I think we'll obviously talk about tonight. I want to, wait and see if we get some people to join the stream before we get going. We'll excuse Jimmy Toscano and Josue Pavone. They just couldn't get it going tonight.
It's a little too late. We got a 2:00 on this road trip though on Super Bowl Sunday, so they should be back for that. I hear one of them will be back Friday, but next 2 nights it's me and you here for these 10 o'clocks.
So we're here. Bobby and I don't sleep, so we're going to hang out with you guys and talk a little basketball. Bobby, just give me – I got some thoughts here, but give me your opening thoughts, just big picture on the game.
So what I loved about this game, while I call it a great game, even though you'll probably have some issues with that, is that not only did Jaylen Brown turn around what was going to be a lackluster 11, 13-point game after brutal shooting struggles early in this one to push that 10-0 run and scored 3 buckets during that stretch. And that closing vicious dunk, it ultimately wasn't the close of the Warriors went on one more run after that, but effectively you felt good about this being a done deal at 10 points when he slammed that down on our friend Juan Toscano's head. We're going to try to differentiate him from someone on the show tonight.
Yeah.
But also Kemba Walker, who went on a 1-9 stretch through the middle of this one, came in for closing time after not playing quite a bit of that second half, and worked through his struggles too to get Brown going on a great offensive rebound in traffic and hit a big 3 during that stretch to close the game as well. So it wasn't the best night for either one of them, but they worked through it. And I didn't think Brad Stevens had the best night either. I hated the starting lineup. I didn't like the rotations throughout much of it, but he finds Grant Williams some minutes, which I wanted to see tonight, and then they close with him.
That's what I want to – my first thought is actually it was almost like a Stevens FU game, and I'll explain why later. But let's get into Kemba a little bit, because this started out to me as like the Kemba Walker is starting to find his rhythm game, and he was hitting shots early, and then he just went ice cold again. And it's just like, so again, you're kind of stuck in that in-between range with Kemba, where in the early going again, he looked quick again, and he looked, he had some juice, but that shot's got to fall. And it was early. And I even tweeted and we were talking about it like, okay, this is good. This is what you want to see. And then, like you said, just dead ice cold. And if he's shooting such a low percentage, it's not helping. So I'm glad he was able to kind of overcome it. But again, these box scores, these lines, these 6 of 18s, and again, he acquitted himself fine on defense, drew 1 charge, possibly another. He was fine, but he's just got to, just more of these shots have to drop, especially the ones that are open. And this wasn't an overly big team. He did still struggle every time he tried to get to the basket on him, either throwing up something that was, please don't block this, levels of creative that it wasn't a high percentage look at the rim, or just, or got blocked or just couldn't get there. So he's still struggling, in tight. And this isn't a particularly large Golden State team, and they also lost somebody during the game. So that's still a bit of a concern for me with Kemba. You want to see one of those nights where it flows the whole game long. We still haven't really, not going to say we still haven't seen it, but we haven't seen peak Kemba anywhere close yet.
Nothing about his return's been linear. It started slow, then he got hot in that
couple games in the middle
for a little bit. Yeah, and then right back down. So it's been inconsistent from him. That's effectively how you would draw it up. I was concerned, too, about the finishing. We talked about that last postseason during some of his worst stretches. He gets swallowed up inside by bigs, and to see that happen against the likes of Kevon Looney and Juan Toscano when he moved to center and the help coming from the wings, not great. That's not exactly Bam Adebayo and Joel Embiid on the other side there protecting the rim. And it didn't feel like he got a bucket to go at the rim all game long. So I was concerned about that aspect of his play, but the inefficiency I'm not as much, because right now with Marcus Smart out, Jaylen Brown struggling on a night like tonight for much of this game, and the bench giving you effectively nothing in terms of scoring unless Grant can go out for a few threes as he did tonight. You got to get points where you can. And even if it's not the most efficient points in the game, to have a guy who can hit 20 points, whether it's 6 of 18 or 9 of 18, you got to take it at this point and just grind out some victories. And even tonight, I think we'll have more than a handful of gripes with this game. To get a win here on this road trip period, especially against the Golden State team that went out of 3 out of 4 coming in, was playing pretty good defense in recent weeks as well. It's great. I mean, this is a tough place to play, no matter what Warriors team you're running into. And Curry was every bit his MVP self tonight, and he gave it a run right until the final moments. So for Kemba Walker to be that counter effectively and play a few good possessions of defense down the stretch there against Curry too, especially that last one. I know they were up 4 and it didn't matter all that much, but he got the initial stop. He kicked the rebound out and killed about 8 seconds there. And by the time Curry shot it again, the buzzer was sounding. So I liked his defense. I liked his activity on the boards, positioning, all that kind of stuff down the stretch. Kemba does so many things beyond scoring to me. Not at an elite level, but at a pretty high level. The pick and roll passing. Defensively, he's not great, but he's always in position to me. These are things that make his presence a gift, even when he's not at himself scoring wise.
Yeah. And it's better to have Kemba than to not have Kemba. There was a discussion during the game tonight, and this is just what we're talking about. And yes, Lean Lantern, only 2 guys tonight. We apologize. We also apologize anybody in the stream wondering.
Yeah, I'm going to delete that other stream.
I just deleted both of them. Why there was one in a waiting room. That was our technical difficulties. Sorry, guys, about that. So they made that point on the broadcast, Bobby. And again, these national broadcasts just friggin' kill me. But
I heard this one wasn't bad tonight.
It wasn't as bad. It wasn't as bad, but it's still kind of like we know nothing about these teams really, so we're going to speak in generalities. But one thing you're talking about, they're just talking about big threes. And obviously coming off the Brooklyn game, which anybody who watched it leading into the Celtics tonight, super impressive watching that team close down the stretch. It was just basically, okay, which MVP candidate wants to take the shot and just put a dagger in another championship team's heart tonight? And that's what happened. And Kyrie was ridiculous. Durant only took 13 shots, which was interesting. It's always going to be a weird, my ball, your ball sort of situation there. But when it works, like tonight, you're always going to talk about, okay, who can compete with that? And everybody, the Clippers side, Paul George had comments after the game like, I mean, as far as individual players go, I just don't know what you're going to do with these 3 guys over here. So you start talking about superstars win leagues, and they're questioning, okay, well, the Celtics have 2, but do they have 3? And there was hesitation. Well, I don't know about Kemba. I don't know if he's there yet. And that's the thing is, if they're going to get to that next level, you need Kemba at a higher level or a better supporting cast around Tatum and Brown. We've talked about this all year, and I was the theme of our last game. Even in a loss, Tatum and Brown are here. They have arrived on the scene. And I think a lot of Celtics media picked up on this too. We've been talking about this the whole time, Bobby. They are championship ready now, these guys, okay? It's not 2 years from now. Now they're ready to go. If you had the right players around them, these 2 guys could get you there. But you want Kemba to be part of that little trio there as opposed to a supporting cast member. So the reason we're hard on him is the expectation level is really high, not that he's not providing value.
Yeah, and it's that everlasting question of who's going to get more shots between him and Jaylen Brown on any given night. Right. You did see Jaylen Brown playing off him a little bit in the early stretches of this one, trying to get going, trying to find himself in the offense. And I don't think there's a division there per se or a divisiveness between those 2 on the offensive end of the floor that's disrupting things all that much. It's just both of them are guys who need to see their shot falling and get in some flow and rhythm. And if one guy, as Kemba was early tonight, is getting a lot of those early looks and Brown can't get a few to go early on in these games, that's always going to be a hard one to flesh out. And I still don't see the things from Kemba when it comes to off-ball movement, getting open for catch-and-shoot looks. It's just not there.
It's not there, but also it's really going to be hurt, Bobby, when you don't have your best playmaker. And they're without Smart here, and he's really the guy who's going to help distribute the ball there. There's really nobody else to do that right now. So that's
and you saw they missed that throughout stretches of
desperately. A lot of ISO, a lot of just give me the ball and shoot. Not a lot of working the ball around. It was not a great game as far as that's concerned.
Especially some of those Brown-led bench units.
Yeah.
I've seen those lag a little bit behind Tatum's led bench units, and obviously we love the Tatum led bench units this year. He's able to just carry those collectives for stretches throughout these games. Brown, not as much. And, he's a great creator for himself off the dribble. But when it comes to finding in traffic and putting guys on his back and finding the corners and all that stuff, he's still not quite
That's
there.
where Tatum is clearly superior. And I might even say in terms of team defense too, I think with Tatum. But the playmaking is still absolutely an area where Tatum has an edge, and he's able to pass out of those double teams. He's still got to recognize a little bit quicker, but you're right. He's able to whip the ball around to the open shooter when they're there. And that when you spell, Tatum for Brown in that unit, it suffers. You will get Pritchard back, which is going to be actually a huge help. Possibly tomorrow. We can talk about that a little bit when we look ahead to tomorrow night. That'll help because you're not going to watch Teague dribbling the ball off his knees anymore. He didn't play horribly, but he's Jeff Teague. He made a couple of shots, but he's not fun to watch out there.
His success early was a product of the Warriors' pretty dreadful defense in the first quarter as well. This game looked like it was rocketing toward the 120s, 130s in that first quarter when neither team was getting stops. Curry went for 17.
So many easy buckets too. Celtics defense in that first quarter was awful. And again, you talk about that starting lineup, Bobby. It's again, I know Smart is out. Brad went double big, and man, the closeouts were non-existent. The amount of layups and
two open threes for Curry.
You saw the best part about that was Brad. Before he released the shot, Brad was 3 steps onto the court. 3 steps onto the court, ready to call timeout. He was so mad about that one. Already, he was like, "What are you guys doing?" Curry again, they left him open a ton. That first quarter was terrible, and then the second quarter, while Curry again was on the bench, Golden State had 5 points through 7 minutes until Curry really came back in there. Again, Celtics, I felt, had a couple of stretches where if they were able to get better shots it was one of those uneven games. When they were getting stops, they couldn't get the buckets to really distance themselves. When they were scoring, they weren't getting stops. So it was always Golden State was at arm's length. Even late when they went on that run, they did everything possible to let the Warriors back into the game.
And the Warriors aren't that impressive of a team. They're
not. It's Curry and then a whole bunch of blah.
So I get why people in the chat are saying this wasn't that impressive a win, even with some of the miscues late. I think that's probably contributing to that take. I just look at what the Celtics did here within themselves, regardless of the opponent. I think they did a good job finding lineups when it's not clear which direction they're going to go.
Not at all.
With some of these guards missing, I thought we'd see a Carson and a Tremont Waters even in this game. They didn't end up going in that direction. They were more big.
Thought you'd see Carson for sure because, Bobby, one time, there was a long stretch where the unit was Javonte, Semi, Rob,
Teague,
Teague and Tatum. And I'm thinking like, if I'm Kerr right now, I just put 4 guys on Tatum and I would let the other guys have whatever they want. And that lasted forever. And I was like, who do you think is going to shoot here? There was nobody on that.
I remember that lineup.
They're like, they just hold it and like, can I get rid of this ball now? Nobody was going to shoot there.
There was some dead stop lineups throughout this one, and you start to see the thin nature of this team when some of the guards start getting taken out of the fold. And they are so fortunate that Pritchard's going to be coming back for the back end of this road trip at the very least, it looks. I don't think they need him tomorrow to beat the Kings. The Kings have the worst defense in the NBA by a mile. We'll get to them. But overall, I feel like they put together some good units tonight, and we'll give Grant a little bit of credit.
So that's where I want to get to, and I'm going to put up a comment from Julian, one of our faithfuls here.
Rob was bad tonight.
So Rob was bad, but in very limited minutes. And so this was what was crazy to me. Okay, last game Grant was a DNP CD. he kept sliding further down the depth chart, and it looked like he was gone.
Can we do a collective apology?
No, but it's hilarious, right? It looked like Grant was gone out of the rotation, and we had all decided, based off of what Brad had been doing the last few games, 2 out of the 3 games prior were Tristan Thompson's season low in minutes, and it was decreed by all. Rob Williams has arrived. It is not. He should play ahead of Thompson. He should play more minutes than Thompson. So what does Brad do? Boom, double big lineup.
And you asked me, John, you're like, what does Grant do well? The 3. You look at the
yes. Even the announcers were saying it. They were struggling. They're like, what? They actually, again, during the broadcast, are like, what does he do well? And they're like, oh, a little bit of everything. He's the classic, jack of all trades, master of none sort of player.
When I saw Tristan struggling in those opening minutes, and Tice wasn't at his best either in the opening stretches of this one, and then Rob started getting turned around big time by Curry and fouling and all the rest. Again, I see the comments coming through. I didn't think he was terrible, but you saw the signs that this wasn't going to be Rob's matchup. He was going to be jumping into shooters and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I think Brad made a good read there.
Any better on defense. That was my thing. So there were so many layups. I thought Rob would at least challenge that or deter it a little bit.
Well, Tice did a good job with that in the second. But it was against a bench unit, though.
It was exactly. But they were getting a lot of easy looks. Oubre had a bunch of dunks on cuts. Curry was getting to the basket whenever he wanted. And again, the threat of the 3 is always going to cause you to overplay there so Curry can get to the basket more often. But when you have Rob Williams there versus someone else, a bit more of a deterrent. I thought this game suited Rob, especially there was no big to really muscle him down low either. This seemed like a Rob Williams game to me. So again, what happens? Tristan Thompson has his most efficient game. Clearly, he came out shooting. For him, 5 field goal attempts is a lot. 13 points. He looked okay. One thing I'll never figure out about him: what hand does he like to shoot with?
Wasn't that a thing his rookie year?
It is. It's so weird. He really is in that Ben Simmons world. He shoots free throws right-handed, but he looks like he favors the left when he's in close.
So he uses the right at this point.
Well, the right, he shoots free throws with his right, but it seems like almost every single thing in and around the basket is with his left hand.
I want to say, I don't have the page in front of me, but that was a thing when he was a rookie. I believe he came into the league as a lefty and then switched. And if you look at his basketball reference page, if you want to pull it up, I don't have it in front of me. I think it has left crossed out and right written. So he had that Simmons situation before Simmons. He shoots with neither hand. He was good offensively tonight.
It's like he's joking. There's a commenter here joking about it. He shoots with neither hand. I was going to say, like, he's not ambidextrous. He's adextrous,
Hey, give him credit for the buckets tonight. What was it, 13 points?
Best we were saying, game. If you're going to get the offensive rebounds, you got to get those putbacks, And so, if he gets it in close or it gets dropped off to him, great. Tristan's in our comments. It's okay.
I'll never get old.
Yeah. It's okay. But
I like that one too.
Yeah, it was. I've seen worse form than Thompson's actually.
That's his game though. He loves the floater.
I'm not apology camming Tristan Thompson. It's just interesting that Brad went this route because it didn't seem like the matchup for him, but he played a good game. And then after that, you had the Grant Williams game. A DNP versus the Lakers, 27 minutes tonight. Again, 15 points, hits all of his threes.
What does that tell us? There's not going to be a center breaking out on this team. It's by committee. It's just like last year, especially if Tristan keeps playing like this. I don't
think Grant is playing because they need center minutes. I think Grant is playing because they lack wing depth.
That's true tonight, although I think Grant could have played center and had.
And you lack, yeah. Yeah,
I actually thought that's the direction.
Again, when you bring in the wings, you bring in guys like Javonte and or Semi. It's a more defensive-minded lineup. I know Semi can stretch the floor and shoot the 3, but they are limited in what they can do offensively. Grant theoretically has more offensive tools, even though he's not exceptional at any of them.
You're right,
but he has more things he can do. And so at his best, he gives you more options. The problem is you don't see it enough.
I love this matchup for him. I know you said this was a Rob one, but you look at how small Golden State went in this one. I believe this is the kind of game where they would have had him at center last year. And again, they're completely positionless. So you pretty much have two bigs on the floor. It doesn't really matter which one you call the center. In fact, when they got into the zone looks down the stretch there, Grant was rotating into the middle and protecting the rim a little bit. He had that big block down the stretch, and he got out for a block on Curry as well. So he was contributing defensively in this one. Had a bad foul on Curry late, but in a matchup like this, where all of a sudden Juan Toscano is playing minutes for Golden State at center, you can put Grant out there and have him defend any position and not be overpowered by bigger guys inside. Kevon Looney was not getting it done in this one, and once he got taken out of the fold, James Wiseman injured in this one, obviously. This was the perfect game for Grant to not only find his shot offensively and navigate into the post and do the different things he wants to do on offense, a nice putback off Tice's miss as well. He's able to impact the game defensively. It's like college all over again. Shorter guys, skinnier guys. He can play the middle, post up even a little bit. You've called them the 4A guys. Like that, he is just slammed between like being a great college player, and he really was. Like he was one of the best big men in the country at Tennessee.
A lot of 4A players.
And now, like when the game gets big and the skilled big men and this powerful big men coming at him inside, it takes him out of the game, and we know he's not fast enough for the wing. We know he's not able to stay with the guards and all that kind of stuff. So he's just always right on the edge of being effective and not. But you said it, all the skills there. He knows what he wants to do offensively, his shot. I mean, if we're looking at the sample size
no. There is no Grant apology cam, guys.
No, but I don't think it's apology cam, but I think it's worthy of considering that there can be games where he is effective.
We said this early in the year too, because there is no obvious rotation. It's going to be matchup dependent, flow dependent, and oftentimes just playing hot hands or benching cold hands for whatever, if that's an expression, you know? So you try something out, you see like, I don't like this tonight. This guy doesn't have it. This matchup's not great. And you kind of tweak it on the fly. You have those games where Javonte comes out of nowhere with 20 minutes and it was like, okay, feels like that's what the game needed. I actually think, it's hard to criticize Brad for rotations because I do think he's figuring it out on the fly every game without he has an idea, but he looks out there and says, this isn't working. And he's really got to feel what the game needs. And it is different every single night because between those guys, you really can see any combination of minutes on any given night and not be super shocked by it.
I think that hurts.
And the problem is that's the reason it's going to be criticism, Bobby, is every single time it happens and these guys perform to their level, which is admittedly not a super high level. It's easy to criticize them and say, it's almost like bad relief pitchers, You pull your starter out of the game. You bring some guy out of the pen who normally works the 6th or 7th inning. He's not your closer. He's not your setup guy. He's not a late inning protect the lead guy. And those guys get knocked around all the time. And it's like, why didn't you bring this guy? There is no this guy. They're all those middle reliever types. They're all okay. And when they perform poorly, which happens because they're not great, you're always going to say, why didn't you play the other guy? When the other guy might not have performed any better either. So they're in a tough spot. I think so is Brad too. So I'm sympathetic.
And he has to do it. It hurts the team. It's evident. It hurt them on Wednesday against the Spurs, going too deep and throwing too many mixes and matches out there when guys aren't able to find a rhythm. But when you hit walls like they often do with Teague and sometimes with the big men as they did early in this game, I think that's deserved. 54 points tonight. I was looking at
never discussed a reverse apology cam.
We're just gonna have to Photoshop in reverse at the top of it on the graphic we already have. Yeah. I think the reverse apology cam's coming soon on the Raptors. I see them in the playoffs the way they're getting it together now.
Right.
They've been exciting to watch. And again, like this is just further example that this year in particular, I've been trying to cool the criticism of the Celtics, especially through this stretch, because between rotations and injuries and a mismatched center position.
I'm with you. I don't think any of it matters. My takeaways are always Jaylen and Jayson are awesome and ready to win a title now. I want to see Kemba be better. The rest of these guys are a bunch of Jags, and they're interchangeable, and some nights you're going to like them and some nights you're going to hate them. So I don't know if help is on the way this year. You just got to kind of live with it. I think it's hard to, night in, night out, it's hard to, get too worked up over some things because there's no easy answers with on this team right now and on this bench right now. I'd love to see a full roster. I really want to see that full roster fully healthy with Nesmith having some confidence, Romeo coming off the wrist injury, Pritchard back, Smart back. So maybe in a month or so, you might feel better about the rotations. It's going to be really hard now.
So I sent you my grades for the team so far earlier. Yeah. I think there's more quality role players here than you're giving credit for. Smart, I think you can effectively call him a B to start this year. I'd say that's above Jag level. Tice, I'd give him a B so far. I think he's
that's great. You're just counting on them for too many important minutes, and I mainly mean that rotation of trying to figure out between Semi and Grant and Javonte and Teague. There's just a lot of guys. One or two of these guys is going to play 20-something minutes every single night, and you don't love that. They're really more 8 to 10 minute guys. I'm not saying Tice. Tice is absolutely going to earn whatever he's going to get, and I don't mind that 3 big rotation, even though I want to see more Williams than Tristan.
I'd give Rob a B too.
Yeah.
So there's some reliable guys here. I think on the whole, if we're looking at the big picture of this team, even Javonte Green and Semi Ojeleye are in that like B- range. And I know they haven't been spectacular. The returns are starting to diminish a little bit. You're seeing it. They're not as effective as they were a couple weeks ago. Thesis is not a B. That actually is how some people say that. It drives me crazy. Yeah. Tice has had like 15 points a game in recent weeks. He's been pretty good.
I think Tice is exactly what he is, and he has value. You know, do I wish he was somebody else? Maybe, but I can live with. You absolutely can live with Tice for what he brings. You know, I think you get the most out of Tice that you can get. You know, it's
in recent weeks as he's gotten more used to that wing role.
Yeah.
I think he's adjusted to that wing role pretty quickly, too. I think in the last few weeks, he's been close to 40% from 3. That miss on the kick out tonight was tough. It's like you look at his percentage in the final 2-3 minutes of a game, and it just falls off a cliff. You don't want him shooting those kick out threes in crunch time. And if he's out there, he's probably going to have to if he's open, but it never seems to go well. Throughout the flow of the game, though, and I think he did have another one tonight, I felt pretty good about him hitting those kick out threes. So, you know, that's how I feel generally about all the wings. They all have shown to be pretty good catch and shoot 3-point guys. The defense is irking me. I definitely see slippage from Javonte and Semi on that end of the floor, and you saw it again tonight.
And Jaylen, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, this team's defense is just infuriating.
Jaylen's a little in and out, and Tatum's a little in and out. And honestly, you see this happen sometimes, and it's inevitable. You have players who are still proving their worth in this league. Early on, and you're going to get a night in, night out defensive effort with a few brain cramps along the way. But as soon as you ascend to legit superstar status and you recognize these games are pretty freaking meaningless, and when the lights are on, it's my time to shine, you might see some slippage. I wonder if Jaylen and Jayson are going through that a little bit, which is kind of like, I take some plays off here and there. They're not full Harden, but I don't see the every trip down the floor sort of.
You feel that with this team as a whole. It's like Tristan Thompson comes here and they almost get a little bit of that Cavaliers imprint from those LeBron years. And how crazy did that drive their fans? Those nights where they wouldn't play defense.
Right.
LeBron was just floating around at safety and they were just completely freelancing through some of these regular season games. Yeah. You do get a feel of that here. And there's obviously extenuating circumstances that are hitting them. And I think make that more adverse on these guys, especially with the load that they're carrying.
I'm going to add, too, when you talk about crowd, I think crowd helps you pump up your energy on the defensive effort more than it helps your offensive game. So that's got to be defense. I know people have been saying has been kind of suffering around the league. I don't mind attributing some of that to this kind of weird environment.
Isn't it so? This was the meeting between the 10th and the 12th best defense in the league. Did it feel like that at all?
No.
So, like, I would have said this was like 24 and 26 if I was just blindly watching it. Yeah. And that's how bad the league's been. I think the only team that's locked in has been the Lakers on that end.
Right. Yeah. And so that's
so that makes you feel a little bit better about it, but not much.
Yeah, I'm just pointing it out. I see it, I think that's a league-wide sort of thing, and it is weird when you're not seeing the defensive effort and intensity you're used to seeing here. So, like I said, I might play that superstar card when it comes to Tatum and Brown. It might not feel as real, so you just don't take it up that extra level, whatever it is. But and again, just the disappointing lack of interior defense from Thompson.
And he's another one. Like, is
you're
that
just
what
not getting it from him at all? And that's
that,
a consistent problem is the amount of easy buckets. They're just demoralizing, especially if you do play defense for 18, 20 seconds and then, you give up an easy bucket down low.
Did you see the play where Wiggins just walked right around Thompson?
Oh, on the baseline. Thompson jumped out at him, and then he was rooted to the ground.
And it's the same thing you see again and again with Thompson, just throwing his body at the play, and whatever
he just ran right out there, dead stop, and Wiggins was like, "Thanks, I'm gonna go here now."
So after that happened, and after his start to the game, I tweeted, I think there's a pretty good case that Thompson is the worst defender in the NBA right now, and
it's not. I know
the numbers are just dreadful. Like every one-on-one matchup he gets thrown into, it's like 60% plus field goal. And whether he switched on to Kevin Durant or even just marginal guys like our Andrew Wiggins, it feels like it's Torch City. And
yeah,
like this is what drives me crazy with him. I'm not doing the apology cam yet because I think there's room for growth and comfort, and maybe there is just some sort of a floating through these games and trying to get to his full 100% shape, health, all that different kind of stuff. But right now, and I'm saying right now, I got some crap for it because no, he's not the worst defender in the league. If you're balancing the whole package of him versus Enes Kanter, it's probably not close. Thompson, you'd much rather have him on the defensive end of the floor. But right now, 16 games in, the sample size we have so far, there can't be many more worse defenders in the league. And, I've looked at the film a little bit. I've read some people on this. There are other things that are breaking down that lead to him giving up a lot of these baskets on the perimeter. The help's not there the way you would like it from Tatum and Brown that we've seen in years past. So there are things that are just funneling down and making his numbers worse individually. But if you just give it the good old eye test, John, you see him get torched again and again. You really do.
It's as much as anything. I saw someone in the chat say it doesn't look like he's trying. I don't think so. He looks like physically he's just not. He's not quick enough. He can't get off. He can't get off the ground fast enough. And again, we know he's not a stellar athlete, but he just looks outmatched. He's just not competing on the defensive end right now, and it's again I don't want to beat him up after a decent game.
Yeah, but it wasn't a decent game defensively. I thought he was pretty bad on that.
He got bad defensively.
He got screwed on that. I thought he got a good held ball. I think it was on Toscano. How good was Toscano?
Also, Grant Williams was minus 13, by the way. And again, I'm not all about plus minus, but it is interesting for all of the minutes he played. He had the lowest plus minus.
I bet he was a plus in the fourth.
Yeah,
and that's all that matters.
He was the lowest plus minus on the team tonight.
Did you see coming in?
And Tice, for what it's worth, plus 24. Tristan minus 4. And again, these are, these are not etched in stone. Means you take the plus minus with a grain of salt. But again, the Tice minutes felt like the most productive minutes out there tonight among the bigs. And Thompson felt like Thompson's little bit of offensive burst offset the poor defense a little bit, where I felt he was awash tonight.
Yeah, I wonder if you saw this stat earlier, because this is encouraging out of a finish like this. I don't have the Grant fourth quarter numbers in front of me, but on the whole this year, the Celtics top 10 in offensive rating, or net rating rather, in the first quarter. They're something like 26th in net rating in the fourth quarter. And that's actually been somewhere where the Warriors have looked pretty good. So that's something I was looking for tonight in my preview. I was trying to see how the Warriors would close versus how the Celtics would close, because they've been something of two opposite teams in that category of the game this year. And it went the other way tonight. Again, something that's a small sample so far, but this team has been pretty bad in the fourth quarter.
Let me throw this out there. I've seen a ton of this on Twitter the last couple of days. I even saw, you see Barstool Greeny got tweeted at by Isaiah.
Yep.
You see that?
He's not coming back.
People have been trying to will the Isaiah thing into existence, and Isaiah tweeted back at Greeny, "Thanks for trying, man. I've made every effort possible. It's not happening." So, I mean, Isaiah Thomas has pretty much resorted to begging the Celtics to bring him back. And for whatever it is, and people want to know whether the dream is alive, you've seen Jeff Teague play basketball, right? We all have. There's nothing super impressive about him. And Danny has still clearly decided that he believes Teague is a better option for this team than Isaiah Thomas, for whatever that means to you. Everyone wants IT. It's a better story. I root for stories, Bobby. I don't know whether the basketball fit is fine, but the story would be phenomenal. But it's not happening.
I think it's probably worth more of a thought and a consideration than some of us have given it. I don't think you snub your nose at a guy who most recently in the NBA was still putting up steady 13 to 15 points every game. But when it comes to fit on this team and what this team needs, they're all set offensively. I don't have any gripes with this team's offense, especially when they're fully loaded. And it's not just Tatum and Brown carrying that load, but they have guys that can shoot off of them. They have good guard depth when they're fully healthy. Smart, Pritchard, and Kemba. So it's like, where does he fit in? Do you want to sign Isaiah and sit him 3 out of 4 nights? I tend have him be the 15th guy on the roster. Like, it's just, it's not fair to him, and it's not a great way to spend a roster spot.
Well, this is why we talked, and I know you and Mariah did a video on it yesterday about the TPE. For a guy like Redick, which I don't like, I don't favor. I think it's a waste of that position. But again, I think everyone's eyes pop at. And you're right, Bobby. Mine too. Everyone's eyes pop at offense, and you just see who can come in and score the basketball, because that's the hardest thing to do in the NBA, and that's what you want. But what this team needs more than anything else is a decent wing who can play a little bit of defense, possibly someone who can protect the rim a little bit better down low, and a little bit more you need a defensive-minded guard or two, or maybe some more playmaking. The last thing you need is a guy who just dribbles around and shoots a ton. It's not a need. And Redick is fine. He's a shooter, but I don't need another guy that just can't stay with guards coming in there. I'd be super worried for a guy who's 36 years old, is going to struggle on the defensive end and is having his worst shooting season of his career, coming in here and being any sort of answer. But generally speaking, I just don't know that type of player and an offensive-minded player entirely is what the team needs.
Yeah, and you read the tea leaves there, and it does feel like the Celtics are being involved there to kind of drum up the price on him and get the Pelicans another pick. They've been piling picks just like the Thunder and others around the league. They want to get a first-round pick for a 36-year-old who is struggling mightily this year, and it's going to be a tough sell on the market. I heard on the radio early tonight you're scared of Brooklyn and Philly getting them, so maybe that'd be a reason you get him. I hate that approach.
No, I don't. That's what I think is so funny. This is
especially for a Redick. Like, Redick's gonna go to the Nets or Sixers and tip the scale. Like, he could go there and not play some nights.
The Nets don't need that.
Yeah, they're not.
And it's not gonna tip the scales at all. They're friggin' fine. They got Joe Harris there, friggin' gunning it. Like, what do they need?
This is all Pelicans drumming this up because he's done nothing this year. His trade value is minimal. Now, in turn, could you get him for nothing? Absolutely nothing.
That's what I said.
Like a second rounder in 24.
He's a buyout. That's what I was saying on our text thread. I would take him for nothing. Absolutely, to come in off the bench and knock down shots. Absolutely. And again, he would fill the role, I guess, that Nesmith isn't able to fill yet, of just a guy who's just going to come in and shoot and space the floor when you need it. And especially if you're going to get so much attention to Jaylen and Jayson, guys for them to be able to kick out to. I think that's important.
Here's my question, though. We know how Brad coaches. Would he have played Redick as the 5th man in that closing lineup tonight, or Grant? It'd be Grant. It'd be Semi.
Grant with the lead.
Yeah, that's true. Situationally, you'd like to have a shooter option there.
But you like to have it when you need it.
Yeah. And what people mention about that whole zone thing last year with Miami that gets brought up too, there was something to that. You would have liked to have had a player who can crack open that zone. And that was obviously the thinking, besides having Nesmith. Is this the secret Bobby John group chat? Yeah, here's a look under the hood.
Yeah, right. But there's plenty of talk behind the scenes before we take it before we bring it out to you guys. But
there's certain stuff we just can't let Jimmy and Joe sway.
Yeah. Jimmy was nowhere on the game thread tonight.
No, they took the night off in full, which I probably would have opted for tomorrow. I think tomorrow is more of a game to hit the sheets early than this one was. I had fun watching this one.
Me too. I'm all in. I took my nap between 9 and 10. I was kind of like half dozing before the game started, and then I enjoyed the hell out of watching the game. Joe Sway's burner asking about Drummond. I want nothing to do with Drummond.
Why is this a thing every year?
Yeah.
Why? Do I have to send everybody?
I don't like this type of center. I don't like this type of player in today's NBA. I don't like it.
Oh, he would drive people crazy. And I said that about Turner too, and I still think there's some tendencies that would have been frustrating about Turner. But Drummond,
Bobby was always that he's not a classic big. He's actually a guy who wants to be a wing, but he has enough size, defends the rim, and it extends the floor for you. I actually thought he was perfect, the perfect big for Brad's system. Perfect.
I think if he fit in the right way, and
I thought he was an outstanding fit for what the Celtics are looking for out of a big. That's what I liked about Turner.
But Drummond, forget about it.
Drummond, I want nothing to do with that type of player.
Not only the price too. I know he's an expiring contract, so that changes it a little bit.
He doesn't give you anything you want. I don't want anything to do with it.
I think his offensive rating's like 89.
Joe Sway is still tweeting about the game, and I was going to make that rule, Sam, and I was going to say, if you're up and you're tweeting, you're on the show. But Mr. Big Time just wants to tweet to his followers right now.
That's crazy. We could have used him here. And this is it's a little bit of a battle here. We're all trying to one-up each other a little bit and, get the edge on here with our points and takes. And we're all trying to limit the amount of apology cams. So that's why John and I created our side chat, because we can't give Joe Sway and Jimmy all the good stuff in the full group chat.
No, it's all good. But yeah, like I said, we'll have the band. We tried to do Nick at night tonight, but
was he asleep? I didn't catch him much throughout the game. He's probably asleep.
Nothing.
Hey, Super Bowl Sunday. I'm sure that's going to be a good time. 2:00. We'll be on here probably 4:30 to 5:30, so it'll be perfect timing with the big game after.
Joe Sway, Joe Sue is disrespecting the Garden Report, Patrick. I agree.
He's really tweeting, huh? That's unbelievable.
I don't know. He was tweeting earlier.
It's hard.
The guy represents the guy. He's CLNS Media, heavy.com. He has obligations he has to fulfill.
That's true. Multiple jobs.
I'll throw this one out here from Julian Larry Nance. I've seen that name dance around a little bit. I don't mind this. I don't know. I don't know his salary off the top of my head.
He might be a cheap expiring. I want to say he's like a 10 to 13 million who's going to have to be re-signed after the year. So we've talked about both lines of thinking with the TPE. Are you just taking garbage or expiring money?
Contract. I think he is in the. I think it might be the last. He's like 10 or 11 per.
The two lines of thinking with the TPE that we talked about are you just taking a garbage rental and someone else like Redick that the other team just doesn't want?
He's in year 2 of a 4-year deal.
All right, so he's actually a similar case to Harrison Barnes.
Yeah.
Where they have 3 years of money, but it's declining. It's 11, 10, and then 9. So that's actually even better than Barnes's money. It would keep them under the tax. I can't say I've watched a ton of them this year, but considering the amount that he's played in Cleveland and how good they've been defensively, I'd figure he's been some part of that. I can defend the 4 and the 5 a little bit. So would add to the crowded front court. I don't know if there'd be immediate minutes for him here. Maybe you could figure he'd be better than Grant, but he can't shoot like Grant. So
no, I mean,
it'd be an awkward fit.
Though, his 3-point field goal percentage isn't terrible, and it's gone up the last couple of years. He's shooting at a 39% clip this year.
How many a game?
What's that?
How many a game?
3.5 a game. So he's not afraid to shoot.
That's similar to Grant.
He's not launching it, but it's close there. He's obviously more athletic. He's a little taller than Grant, and I
like his verticality. They need that.
Yeah,
exactly. A guy who
exactly.
can get up there around the rim on both ends of the floor.
Yeah, so I don't mind that if you're looking for, as again, we talked about more athletic wings, guys who can absolutely, he would probably slot in more as a 4 in this lineup here, which is fine.
Which is something they need. They do.
So I like that. And again, but then you're holding the contract for a couple of years. I think you could do a lot worse than Nance. I actually think that that's a decent one.
That's good money too.
It's not expensive, so I don't know why Cleveland wants to get that, to dump that.
Maybe they want Tristan Thompson back.
Maybe they want Tristan back. So I don't know. I mean, he makes sense because, like I said, he fits a need and he fits the money, and I think he's fine. Barnes, I don't. A lot of people love Harrison Barnes. Again, I'm a little dubious.
Yeah, me too. And we've seen in his best days, he was someone who limited the Golden State's ability to win that 2016 by being an off-ball shooter type who couldn't knock down those shots in the big moments. And he's only aged since. The contract does go down, for multiple years. I think that's what you want out of the TPE. I'd much rather have a guy who you can integrate for years to come. And he is that third wing.
He's having a pretty efficient year this year.
He is the epitome of a rock solid wing.
Yeah.
Like he's good. He's not great. He's not bad. He would just fill that fourth spot.
He'd be a lineup. Yeah, I'm not going to say Hayward in terms of their games aren't similar. But again, what you are going to get there is that third wing option to be able to run it like you did when you had the 3 wings out there last year with Hayward out there. So
he's more acquirable than Larry Nance too, I would say.
You think so?
Yeah, because I think the Kings are so stacked with wings and all these different players that they're trying to get minutes to that a guy who has $30 million left and COVID times where they're trying to shed some salary, their team's pretty expensive for how mediocre they are. I think they'd be willing to dump $30 million in a pretty even trade that Boston wouldn't have to give up too much in.
Well, I mean, it's a full, that's the full TPE there. That's going to be $20 million,
So it would only be matching for this year. So it'd only be what is it, $13 million for this, or is it 20?
It's 22. He's on the books for 22 this year, then 20, then 18.
Oh, that's higher than I thought.
It's high. No, I'm saying he has a real contract. That's a real financial commitment. So you got to live with that.
So that's two sides to that. You're paying more, but it'll probably be even easier to get because they want to dump. That's probably upwards of $60 million.
Get rid of, yeah.
Yeah. So like even more to that point that they'd probably want to get rid of that. So is it ideal? Like this is going to be the tough part about this. Do you wait? Do you wait for that perfect option? Because eventually this thing disappears.
It does.
They need help this year.
A lot of people are looking at New Orleans as a mess. Can you pick the bones off of that one? I know Lonzo's thrown out there. You're not super psyched about that. No. Steven Adams would be interesting, but I don't know how that would work either.
No, not a center. Nance can fit in at that 4. Adams would be fighting for minutes with like 4 different guys. And like, is he too expensive for the TPE? I thought he's like 28. His contract was ridiculously expensive, so he might not even be attainable with that TPE.
Yep.
So Adams, I am out on. I like wings. I'm all in on a wing. Gordon, Barnes.
I like wings. That's again. I'm not going to go back in the same thing over and over again. But I mean, that's what I wanted with our mid-level when the Celtics signed Thompson. I wanted a wing, and I was willing to float it with Tyson. With a combination of Tice, Williams, and whatever else you could get there. But
I don't know if the Kings love Barnes. Again, it's a crowded wing spot there. Healed. His name gets thrown around a lot in this TP conversation.
Yeah, we hear Terrence Ross. We hear a lot of Fournier. It's the same names time and again. The interesting thing is most of these are based off of salary fits and teams that you think are bad, but none of these names are based off of anything that you believe that team wants to do.
Are you still stubbing your nose at Horford? I just saw his name come through.
I was saying a few games ago that Horford, when Embiid ate him alive, I said Horford would have been the difference in this game.
Depending on who's available, I would think about it. Now, I think there would have to be some sort of quid pro quo there where the Celtics unload some contracts too to try to make it a little bit cheaper. I'm not sure who they would dump necessarily. We all know the lower contracts on the team are pretty cheap anyway, but I think
Celtics don't have that. It would be Tristan.
Yeah, I think that would be the one. Can you
So
make
it'd be Tristan and TPE for Horford, and then that would be, I guess. And again, we're not capologists here. This stuff is super confusing, but just kind of guessing it would be some sort of package like that. Would this team be better there? Maybe, but then
my thinking there is the Horford contract's a lot, and I think what makes it more consumable is that the later years are less guaranteed. But immediately, I'd like to get some relief where you're not getting absolutely nailed with tax. Just to add Al Horford, if you could dump off Thompson, his $9 million, that would definitely help. All of a sudden, you're just talking about like a net. What's Horford, like 26? So you'd be talking about like 16 instead of 26 or 17, maybe. That would be much easier to swallow than eating that whole year of Horford that he has right now. And again, I don't care about tax, but I know how it's going to impact them into the future and some of the stuff they want to do in the years. You do have to consider when you're adding on some of these years that Marcus Smart is that next guy to come up contract-wise. So is someone you're acquiring, $27 million on Horford. Ugh.
It's huge. And LaShawn, I agree with this point. I was saying it earlier. We don't know if any of these teams actually want to sell. You don't know that the Magic are in trouble now with Gordon hurt for 6, and they lost Fultz already. So that ship is sinking, but you don't know that they want to sell parts per se. So
you know how I've looked at the TP. A guy gets hurt, it makes it even more attainable.
Josh Jackson, I actually mentioned him as one of my flyers earlier in the season.
That would be fun, huh? That would be fun.
I mentioned him as when we did our free agent series in the offseason as a low-key guy I would have considered taking a flyer on for cheap.
I bet they want to try to keep him. Memphis, I don't know how Memphis let him go. He had a great year in the G League, came up a few times, did some good things for them, and then they just let him slip to Detroit. And he's played well again there. So I don't think Detroit's going to want to let him go. They're going to try to want to keep him into the future.
Yeah. Sam, it might be the two of us, but I'm open to suggestions. If you want to, if there's anybody you'd want us to join, we're open to it. But it might be me and Bobby for one more game.
There's some good people in Kingsland if we want to go that direction.
I thought about it. I thought about calling up one of the Celtics guys, but it's late. It's late for everybody. Everyone's got stories to file.
Yeah, that's true.
And Zoom press conferences to sit in on, and I felt bad about it. So I just let it go for tonight, but we'll see.
We want to get Keith on here at some point, but he's a dad. I don't think 1 a.m.'s and 2 a.m.'s in his range either.
Hey, I'm a dad, and with some very small children here who are going to tear me apart in a few hours. But anyway, yeah. All right. So I think that's it. The TPE chat always dominates here because I think that's what's most interesting, but I am excited about a couple of things. I'm definitely excited potentially for Pritchard to return because that could happen tomorrow. Brad was saying you were in there, right, in the chat?
Yeah, and that had been reported. I forget who first reported that. Probably Himmelsback or someone like that who said that was the target date for the team. So it was pretty similar to Kemba. They did a light workout with him yesterday. He wasn't live, but Kemba wasn't live either going into action. So they probably feel good about just getting his legs under him and using the games to get him back in the playing shape.
Yeah, so that's that would be nice. I think Celtics certainly missed him. I think all of the
it's perfect timing. Smart goes down.
Yeah, with Smart out and seeing about as much of Teague as you're going to ever want to see. I think Pritchard back will make a big difference, but also just that spark. It's just another guy that does something. He's fun to watch, it's
the second unit role, and the bench looked much better when he was out there earlier in the year. And I'm interested to see how he meshes with Kemba a little bit. If they end up starting him, maybe they probably go Teague. Again, like people lose their mind about the starting lineups, and I did again tonight. But deep down, I knew they were just trying to get those Thompson minutes out of the way early and try to rotate in some better things later. You see more than ever this year, the starting lineup doesn't matter at all. Like whatever they start with is probably not what they're going to end with. And in many games early this year, Pritchard was in that closing lineup. So could you see something like Pritchard, Kemba, Tatum, Brown, and a center? Depending on who's the best center on that night. I think that's a perfect closing lineup for almost any game.
Yeah. All right, so we'll wrap it up tonight. We do have want to talk about our sponsor, which we always love, is Manscaped again. 20% off your first purchase, free shipping, manscaped.com. Happy New Year, Manscaped would like to wish you. Make sure you get this deal here. Lawnmower 3.0, all sorts of other accessories, underwear, a tote bag, spray, powder, cologne, all of it. 20% off. Again, we talk about this all the time. You need something like this. You got to have something like it. Just get this and get your 20% off. It's a great deal. So just go and get that. As far as everything else is concerned, that's it. Kings tomorrow. At least the two of us. Maybe more, but we'll see. Y'all suck. Hey, you suck.
Hey, we gave him all that stuff, and that's how he ends it.
Come on, Mark. What do you mean?
We gave him.
What did we do?
1:50.
What did we do to suck this late in the game?
1:50 a.m. and we still need to work after this.
We're still here, and we still got work to do. Anyway, no Brockton Wi-Fi tonight. Let's go. Last thing we'll say again: subscribe to the YouTube channel. You get notified when we go live. Also, all sorts of great podcasts. We've got a bunch of stuff dropping. Did Goodman and Ryan do anything?
I'd imagine they'll be Thursday, probably after the back-to-back.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Thursday. Okay. So we'll have more stuff coming out this week.
I think podcasts will be late this week with the early games in the week. So Celtics beat. They've had some good shows in recent weeks. We got lots of good Kobe stuff from last week. In fact, I'm all compiling into a bit of a mini documentary right now for Dome Theory that's going to be dropping this week. So be on the lookout for that. It'll be on the YouTube channel too in video format. But Nick, Jimmy, Jeff Perlman, Howard Beck, like we've had a bunch of people talking about Kobe within the last weekend.
Thank the Bobby.
I told you, John.
Lots of good stuff. Dome Theory's Bobby's pod. It's great. So definitely listen to that. I'll still pump Joe Sway's pod, Causeway Street, even though he dogged us tonight.
And Jimmy Johns.
The Jimmy Johns. Great work, Bobby. Hey, good job, Bobby.
Thank you. Thank you. I think they're going to get a closer look at John. I'm going to try to rub off on you with some positivity. And I think over the next few games, we'll get people liking you more.
Yeah. Yes, Julian, we can get Bob, but maybe not for these late ones.
Yeah, I'm not counting on Bob at 2.
Not these late ones, but Bob said he'd come on a couple of these for us, so we might get it going on.
Hey, I'll take a week off at some point here after I log these late ones.
We all need a break. We might do that. Bobby effing Manning.
Oh, All-Star break. Are we All-Star game or makeup games? Like what's going on there? They're trying to do an All-Star game in Atlanta and converge everyone together while they're trying to get the schedule right. Yeah. I mean, that's just the dumbest thing they've ever attempted in my recent memory.
I don't know what they're doing with the All-Star game.
Like it's like having a fire in one room and like attending the dinner in the other room and trying to like start more food while there's a fire burning in the other room. Like I don't get it at all. It seems like a money grab. I don't see the benefit of it. I don't get it at all. Like, is there any upside to that? Ratings? The All-Star game does better in the ratings in these recent years, so that's probably it.
We'll see. At least you get Jaylen.
Jaylen, consensus. I was watching NBA TV. Consensus starter. Unbelievable.
Starter, huh?
Yep. The whole panel had him on there.
No kidding. I mean, it's really going to come down to him versus Harden, I think.
Yeah, and he's been better than Harden. We've talked about that on the show.
You know, in terms of voting, but I mean, you look at the East is pretty locked in with every other position. I think it's going to be Durant. It's going to be Giannis.
Kyrie's usually a strong vote getter.
But I think that swing spot is going to be interesting there.
I think he can get it. Again, when Boston needs to rally for someone in the votes, whether it's from baseball or this stuff over the years. Like, remember Taco last year? Wasn't Taco pretty high up in the voting?
Yeah.
I think they'll rally for Jaylen.
But I mean, you're looking at, Embiid is a lock at center. I think Beal is a lock. I think Durant is a lock, and Giannis is a lock. So you're really looking at that last spot, that last guard spot, which you could say
point guard.
Well,
Put him right in a point guard.
So Trae Young is possible. Jaylen is possible if you called Beal a point and just had two guards and not a traditional point guard. And then the other one would be Kyrie, but his flake out, I think, hurts him there.
Taco was seventh in centers. I remember that.
Yeah. So we'll see. All right. So we'll wrap it up. We'll be back tomorrow night. Thanks again, everybody. And we will see you actually later. Well, it won't be later tonight. It'll technically be tomorrow.
24 hours.
But late. Good night, all.